o'clock. I'll call tonight's meeting to order. And Abby, do you want to take roll?
Sure. Commissioner Grindal.
Here.
Commissioner Lorich.
Here.
Commissioner Roberts.
Here.
Commissioner Wright.
Here.
Commissioner Hoyt. Vice Chair Legness.
Present.
Chair or President Erickson.
Here. If you would join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we have an agenda before us. I'll entertain a motion to approve or amend.
I move we approve the agenda.
I second it. Jill?
Motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We have an agenda. Next up is open forum. It's an opportunity for anybody to come before the body to discuss any matter. And I've seen a shaking head in the audience, so seeing no one coming forward, we'll move along to our consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I motion to approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It moves forward. All right, regular agenda action items. We've got a couple things on the docket tonight. No, actually, no, there's no action items. There's just discussion, excuse me. So 2 items for discussion, including our draft business subsidy policy and a draft 2025 community and economic development report. Abby, want to take us through it?
Yes, thank you. I have these on just as draft and discussion, so staff can seek your direction on any sort of finalization we'd need before official adoption or approval would come back. Additionally, when it comes to the business subsidy policy that we'll discuss first, that is something that we would vet through the city council as well. And so get the EDA's feedback before we get council feedback, and then we would bring it back in a finalized format. So included in your packet was a brief staff memo and the draft business subsidy policy. So the city's past practice, both the city and the EDA, has been to consider public subsidies when it's instrumental in the development of land and maintaining a diverse economy in Forest Lake. We have in our records a 2009 draft. I can't find where the city ever adopted it, though I don't doubt it was not adopted. A 2012 version that was developed at the time the city was granting subsidies for Team Vantage in the Airport Business Park District. So there might have been some things in that policy that were maybe a little bit more specific to that type of business. And a 2023 draft that at the time the council did discuss with the EDA. We sought some legal direction just with all the changes we've had over the years. And it's sitting for a little while. I wanted to get this back in front of you guys. One of the things that all 3 of them really have in common is there's a lot of words in them. And there is, I often joke sometimes when we have documents like that, like who got paid by the word. Really, when it comes down to it, all of them really tend to kind of consider all the things. We'll fund all the things. And generally, communities want to have a business subsidy policy to try to address all the things that could potentially come their way for funding in the future. Kind of the business subsidy policy, we have to think about it as sets the foundation for any type of assistance we might give in the future. One of the challenges for staff, as well as the EDA and the members of the public, is it's hard to really know what it is we would fund then. I get all sorts of ideas from people of, hey, is there funding for this, for that? And technically, our policy says there is. But really, when it comes down to it, that's not helpful. It's not helpful for me. It's not helpful for the public. It's not helpful for the EDA. Really, after now 4 years here with the city, I can kind of say I think it is that there's certain things that the city is looking to fund or help be willing to entertain. And then there's other things that, though worthy endeavors, may not be something that we're willing to put public financing for. So the whole goal of this updated business subsidy policy is to provide a uniform policy that can be easy to understand and implement and slim down, right? We want to just have that baseline of what is this policy, what are our goals, and what will we fund, what won't we fund. So I'm going to run through just a really high level, and then we have some things to discuss of whether or not staff got it on track and maybe some policy recommendations. So a subsidy is essentially any grant, personal property, real property, infrastructure, the principal amount of a loan with rates that are low commercially available rates, a reduction of any or deferral of any tax or fee, a guarantee of any payment under a loan, lease, or other obligation, or any sort of preferential use of government facilities given to a business. It's a lot. It's not just the small little $10,000 commercial facade improvement stuff we're doing. It's all the way up to big TIF projects or land leases or all those sorts of things. All of that can be considered a subsidy. The Minnesota Statutes 11.6J 993 through 9.995 is actually kind of known as the Business Subsidy Act. And the Business Subsidy Act says if you hit this threshold, it's formally a business subsidy. And a lot of policies out there will say, this is our business subsidy policy if we're going to grant more than $25,000 or $50,000 or $150,000. A lot of that act is really more about reporting to the state when we are giving subsidies. I've drafted our policy based on it doesn't really matter if it's triggering state statute or not. These are the policies for where we will start our foundation of potentially granting public assistance for businesses. So the intent of the policy is to ensure long-term well-being of citizens by expanding and diversifying our economy. That's like our number one thing, right? We want to build and grow our economy for the betterment of the community. We want to create high-quality employment opportunities by either retaining or expanding businesses and attracting new businesses to the city. We want to build a diverse tax base by strengthening commercial, industrial, and mixed-use districts while providing for a variety of housing options. And we want to encourage sustainable, orderly development and redevelopment, growth, development, and redevelopment in and around Forest Lake. And then and maybe it should be the first one, or maybe arguably the last one, I don't know, but ensure responsible stewardship of public funds. It's public money. Yeah?
Quick question, where there's questions coming up by the body, do you want us to address them now or wait till the end?
I don't care if you want to, you've got some questions. It's your discussion time, so if you have some questions now.
I'm just
happy to
curious
talk.
why we included that phrase, variety of housing options in bullet 3.
Part of the reason that we included a variety of housing options in bullet 3 was because there is desire, I think, for more housing, specifically in the downtown area, and maybe housing that helps provide just different types of housing in the community. The variety of housing options is a pretty common phrase in a lot of public subsidy policies amongst communities.
Okay, thank you.
So eligibility, this is essentially the baseline for when we would consider funding. And I just highlighted the kind of the meat and potatoes of each of them. Projects that, where we need public infrastructure. Essentially, if we have the ability to help improve the public infrastructure in an area, that's something that we would probably help consider providing some funding for. That create new business and residential opportunities in downtown. Right? Those are an area that we've identified as really wanting to help spur private development or development in general. We want to stabilize our business districts and our transportation corridors. Broadway Avenue, Highway 61, Highway 97. Those are areas that we really want to see some life, whether that be new development or redevelopment. Projects that assist in orderly growth and generate a significant economic spinoff. If you have a large infrastructure project or a larger development project that could result in other smaller development happening around it, that might be something that we'd consider helping support. Attracting businesses or industries not currently located in the city. That is one thing that I think we've often looked at is more jobs, more living wage jobs Not to say that we don't have manufacturing here in the city, but we don't really have a ton of manufacturing in the city. That is one of those areas that we've talked about in the past. And then this is where we start to kind of get, this last one's a little bit broader, but where we enhance the value of surrounding properties, stabilize the area, or foster a sense of community. I know that is a little vague, but when you think of our commercial incentive facade program, this is kind of like the good stable base underneath a program like that. And then projects that result in higher wage and quality employment opportunities. We'll touch on that last one in a little bit, because that last one is a requirement of the state. If we are to have business subsidies, offer business subsidies, the state of Minnesota does require that we have minimum thresholds for jobs created and the wage associated with those jobs. We can deviate from those with certain guidelines or certain reasons in the future, but we at least have to establish that minimum. So do you want to talk about these at all? Did I capture, do we think I captured the essence of the things the city, the EDA, has been hoping to help support with public assistance? Are there things that staff missed?
I've got a question about downtown.
Sure.
How do we define the downtown, and what happens if somebody outside the definition of downtown wants to expand and needs help?
I think it kind of depends on, where it is and what they're looking to do, and if they're meeting one of these other criteria or thresholds.
Okay, so if they're not in downtown for under eligibility, it doesn't throw them out?
No, correct.
Okay, gotcha.
Would it make sense to add, when you say what's downtown, I think immediately to our downtown study that actually defined kind of what we're thinking. Would it make sense to tie back to that study?
Definitely can. That's a great
Documentation.
recommendation.
Other questions or comments? Yeah.
Abby, I'm not seeing in here, and maybe I'm missing it, but is there anything from eligibility standpoint that you see in here, or are we missing it, that would talk about eligibility for businesses that are going through significant growth? So an existing business that's going to grow.
I guess when it comes to their growth, you could look at just whether or not it's that generating significant impact. Otherwise, it could also be just that result in higher wage or quality employment. I guess it all, again, it's going to probably depend on what that business is and how it's growing. If it's just growing by, equipment on the inside of the building, I'm not sure if that's something that the city would fund. There are other state funding programs that might be able to help support that. But if that is, by expanding their business by maybe moving someplace else where they're adding 10 more jobs at $50 an hour, then yes, I think that definitely. Do you have maybe a thought you have in mind or a past experience that we could?
Yeah, I'm thinking,
Back through?
so expanded job growth would be one way to look at it, but also expanded square footage. So if you have some sort of business that's going to double its size, even though you're on the same property. So moving properties to me doesn't matter so much, but I think supporting somebody that's doing a significant expansion
Sure.
should be considered just as much as somebody moving in.
Yeah, and maybe where we do talk about projects that enhance or increase the diversity, maybe included with that attraction is, those are not located in the city, but I was thinking that maybe we could find a way to add that into one of these if the commission, the EDA wanted.
Yeah, I was just saying, I hear what you're saying, and I think of a business in my hometown that has grown and grown and grown in their footprint. In this last, development, there was a lot of subsidies that were given by the state, and at every level of government to help them kind of make that happen. And so, that idea of, helping a existing business kind of go to that next level, creating a tremendous number of new jobs, absolutely should be something that we'd want to have built in here to kind of be able to consider for sure.
Well, that was my question, is it our do we build in some sort of metrics or KPIs that they,
We do, that's the last bullet.
Definitely when it comes to wage and employment opportunities, and we could get to that.
okay,
It brings up a really good point, though. The city, so if you had some time, I know it was a lot of information where I included many other business subsidy policies as hyperlinks in the staff memo. One of the policies that I went back to a lot is Rosemount. Rosemount is one of our peer cities. Rosemount says they're only gonna fund where you make an investment of $1 million capital or more, hit wage or job, and then you have to have one of these other items. And so that could be another factor in there, is actually putting in a minimum capital or requirement. Not that every project would have to hit them, but that could also then be that trigger for those potential expansion of existing businesses.
yeah, skin in
I
the
think
game.
I would rather see it be more of a percentage of something, because I wouldn't want to preclude anyone that's going to invest $500,000 and maybe they're a smaller company and all of a sudden, no, we can't because we have a higher dollar amount. I'd like to see,
Maybe greater than 50% of the market value of their existing structure,
something along.
a capital investment. Why don't I look at what some of the industry standards are for kind of that expansion, especially when it relates to maybe that capital. Just making myself a note here. Anything else about eligibility? Are there any that you think should come off, or do you think that we kind of hit the high notes?
Can I ask what protects us if, as things happen all the time, economies change, markets shift, if we provide funding, and even if they've met this criteria, and then something happens in the market, and, is there, like in other situations we've talked about, like clawback clauses and things like that, is there
Yep.
something in place to protect us there, or?
Yes, so every, this is again, just the eligibility, every
Yep.
type of request has to have an application, there is a review, and every request has an agreement. So for the CIIP, the Facade Improvement Program, the Commercial Incentive Improvement Program, you see, it's just a quick and little 2-page agreement with them that essentially says, you do the work, submit an invoice, show us what you've done, then we give you back we give you
Right.
the money. With our larger projects, so any sort of development, if there was some sort of TIF district or something where we were gonna fund based on wage, we have an agreement in place that we either pay as the development goes, or that after 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, if those conditions don't exist, we can
Okay,
claw back essentially, yeah.
okay.
But those are written into the agreement, and we tend to shy away from putting all of that into the policy, because we may want to pick and choose what those protections are as the markets change, as the development project is.
Okay.
Question.
Yeah.
Maybe I missed it. So are we talking about, we have to hit at least one of these marks, or two, or all, or what?
I
what do
had
we-
put in the plan two, or in the policy two, but I think that's a really great question of whether or not it's hit one of these, and we'll consider it. I think one is really reasonable. I do like Rosemount's approach where they say, hey, you have to at least hit a wage or a job or capital investment, and then one of these public good things. But I think that's up for the EDA to discuss. Great question. I should have mentioned that.
I think, so I like the idea of having multiples, but I can see scenarios where I would very strongly only support one of them, but in the same instance, if it was, so if we have a new business coming in that's going on vacant land, let's say, and if it is a desirable versus
Lesser desirable.
Yes, less desirable business. So if it's another gas station coming into town, so I oftentimes see on social media people will say, Forest Lake's full of gas stations and dental places. And I don't necessarily want to subsidize that when we already have existing businesses doing well in those areas. But if something that was completely new, not existing in Forest Lake, or maybe there was only one other option, I'd be much more prone to saying, yes, this one bullet point is enough for me to
Yeah.
skip the rest of it.
I agree that I think that scaling it to just saying, meet one of these and we'll consider it. I think, we consider all of our requests on each individual's merits, and having more than one just makes it a little trickier too, right?
And it's kind of touched in your intent piece with the economic diversity. I would
Yeah.
put it under, but
Great. All right, good, great discussion. So what I heard, at least with the eligibility, reference the downtown plan boundary, kind of check those industry standards for the expansion of existing businesses based on their kind of capital investment. And really the eligibility is meet one, and we're ready to talk at least, right? All right. That moves us on, at least then, to ineligibility. This is a little uncommon, I would say, that I've seen in business subsidy policies, but I do think because the city, sometimes how we use tax money is scrutinized by the general public, I felt like it was important for us to at least have some elements of ineligibility. Essentially, if an applicant is delinquent with the city, I don't know that we want to necessarily be engaging in giving them funding. If there's any sort of pending or legal regulatory action, those are other things that, in our own opinion, we should be able to potentially withhold from providing funding. History of noncompliance or defaults. Essentially, if we have had a development where they have defaulted or breached, or we're not in compliant with agreements, that might make it an ineligible project. Whether or not they're in good standing with other legal or regulatory requirements, taxes, environmental laws, those sorts of things. Reputation or performance concerns, just the credibility and poor business practice, and then just material misrepresentation, if they've provided us with false, misleading, or incomplete information. Things you want to discuss here at all?
the very first one, so the applicant is delinquent on obligations to the city, meaning us, Forest Lake only, right?
That is, at least.
I might suggest altering that to any city, a county, or other type of government. If they're delinquent in Wyoming or Columbus, I don't necessarily want to subsidize them to bring them into town here to make it number 3.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. I think that gets a little trickier for us to navigate and find out, but I think at least putting it in here is, hey, if you made agreements elsewhere and you didn't pay back or whatever it was.
I think during their application, you could ask them, are you delinquent? And if they state no, and we later find out that they are through whatever process,
Then that's material misrepresentation.
it certainly is.
The only other one I'd have is bullet number 3, that the applicant has a record of default, breach, or noncompliance. Just feels a little subjective the way it's written. I mean, how can we quantify that to either say somebody's in or somebody's out?
Well, I mean, we do have, developments that happen right now in the city are going on that are in default, right? There has been a record of noncompliance with agreements.
So when would you say, though, that there's been too many that they're not eligible? Or is it any?
Oh, I see what you're saying is if there's been any, or if there's a current record.
Well, yeah, I'm looking for a little less ambiguity.
That might be one that legal counsel could provide some guidance on, I suppose.
Sure.
Another question I have is, so all or most of these reference the applicant. In some instances, would the applicant actually be the business versus a human?
Generally, the applicant is going to end up having to then, on the application, going to have to include the business interests and entities involved. So I think you bring up a good point of the applicant may be one person, but the agreement might be with a different person. And so how we address that through the entire review process.
And maybe using the words the applicant, similar to this in policy generally is fine, but perhaps somewhere near the top, having a definition of the applicant is the business, its principal owners and managers, something to that effect.
That also could go as well for, let's say you have the landowner or the person putting up the structure and we're financing it, and then the person leasing that space. I don't know if those two would be able to tie them together or not.
Yeah, I think all of that brings up, because a lot of times through these kinds of agreements, parties can change over time, and whoever originally applies might not be the final developer, builder, landowner, those sorts of things. And so I think we could find some words that kind of says the applicant is the person, entity, firm, parties, who has an interest in the application and would result in a potential public subsidy. Very much in the beginning, we do also indicate, like, the city is the city council, the EDA staff, legal counsel, financial counsel. So I think that we can find a way to put that in. Great. So that's awesome. Moving right along, I wanted to spend a little bit time on the job and wage information. Again, by state requirements, we have to have something in this policy about new job creation and the minimum wage. And this is our floor, right? So the state essentially says, hey, if you're gonna give public subsidies of X amount, you need to at least have in your policy that you consider job creation as a potential means for why you would be granting a subsidy. And if somebody is going to get a subsidy based on that job information, you need to include that in the agreement. And if you didn't grant the subsidy based on that, just you need to include that in the agreement, that it wasn't based on job creation or wage. So in looking at, and then the state says we can deviate from it. So again, even though it's our minimum, we could go less, but we still have to have that, like, floor established. So industry standards vary across the board. Many cities, our current policy, or our most last used policy with Team Vantage in 2012 was a minimum of 1. You need to create a minimum of 1 job. Many cities would require 5, 10, and some will even say the maximum number of jobs feasible. And so we need to establish what is our floor for a job, but then also wage requirements. And I think we should just go through wage requirements really quick, because I think depending on where we land in that wage could depend on how many jobs we ask for, right? If we have a lower threshold of our wage requirement, maybe we do want to see 2, 3, 5 jobs, But if we end up with a higher wage requirement, maybe going with just a minimum of 1 is sufficient. So I did include in your packet, it wasn't a nice little table like this, but currently the state does say you need to have a minimum of 115% of the federal wage, which is $8.34. So that's our floor. The state says you can't go lower than that if you're gonna do a subsidy based on wage calculations. So our current policy that was, our draft policy from 2023 said 150%, which is $17.12 an hour. That it comes out to about just under $36,000 a year. But many cities do require 200% of the state minimum wage, which comes out to about $48,000 per year. I did just pull a little bit of living wage data just to show you. This comes from MIT for Minnesota. MIT says if you are one adult living in Minnesota, to have a living wage, you need to have make a minimum of $23 an hour. So if you go back to our hourly of 115, we're about $5 less than that. If we move to that 200, we're just slightly below what a single adult earner with no children Moving on to, if you had 2 adults, but only one of them is working, no children, $32 an hour, so it just gets a little bit higher. I do want to at least just focus on either the kind of 1 adult working or even 2 adults working, because we are intending to try to, it says in our comp plan, different goals of the community are to try to increase our head of household positions in the community, essentially trying to encourage positions in the community that will create living wage environments. If you look at living wage for 2 adults, living wage for 2 adults while both of them were working. If they had 1 child, if we're at 200%, we're just about to our living wage. If it was a family of 4, where it was 1 adult working, it's just a single earner household, we're about $20 shy an hour. So I wanted to show you guys that just to at least kind of show you where we thought we were a few years ago. We thought maybe 150% would be fine. At a minimum, I think that we should be looking at that 200% to try to bump up some of those. If we're going to give subsidy based on wage. If we're going to give a subsidy based on wage, it seems to me we should be looking at increasing that to 200% at a minimum to try to encourage more head household opportunities.
Go ahead.
I'd have to dig in here to find it, but in one of the documents, it had referenced like a median wage for the county.
Okay.
And while I don't necessarily think that's a good metric for Forest Lake specifically, because there's some outliers quite a ways south of us, but you can quite easily pull up median wages for Forest Lake.
Yep.
And I think that would be for the specific bullet point, if like the sole bullet point is we're gonna bring jobs in here, if they're not meeting the median wage, not average, the median wage of our community, I don't know that we should be subsidizing them to come in on that bullet point. Perhaps there's other bullet points.
Right.
So I think we really should have this as twofold. So if for some reason the median wage got really low, we could have 200% or the median, whichever is higher. But I'm guessing that number, and I can pull it up while we're sitting here, is significantly higher than 200%.
I think you might be referring to page 46 in the packet.
I'm just gonna pull that up really quick.
Which is housing and income in that draft report.
Oh, was that it in our community and economic development report?
I think that might be what he's referring to. Maybe.
Still scrolling. It's a big packet.
We have a,
Oh, it might have been on the next agenda item.
yeah, because in that we do have
Yeah, page 46.
average household income.
You have average household income of 122.
Yeah,
That was something. Here, I'll find it.
Should be about
The ChatGPT is saying $29.90. That seems high.
Was it hallucinating?
$29.90.
For an
Yeah.
hourly wage for individual or
Median.
median?
For
Full-time
Forest,
workers,
for Forest Lake or for Washington County?
Forest Lake, 55025.
Yeah, I would want to,
40-hour standard work week.
I would want to just pull that from the county. That would be the only thing that I would say is that if the EDA is favorable to that approach of it being established by what the county median is, I think we can easily look at what those numbers are. I do agree with Eric that if we were going to be basing a subsidy on wage information alone, we should be trying to target higher wages than $17 an hour, because I think some of our, service retail are probably at that right now, which is not a bad thing.
I did find it. It's page 19
Oh, page 19.
that I was referencing. It's, if you don't mind, I'll just read the paragraph. It's 8.02 on page 19. It says wage stipulations. The city's goal is to assist in the creation of jobs at wage and benefit levels that will support families. The minimum job creation requirement is 1 full-time position. Livable, in quotes, wages are expected to be strongly considered in any job creation portion of an assistant project. Primary wage stipulations for direct benefit assistance will normally be based on 80% of the median household income for Washington County.
80%. It says these stats were pulled from the Bureau of Labor Statistics and Social Security. I mean, you know,
When you're looking at $22 an hour, that's what the employer is paid. That's not what the employer is getting. I don't want to say stuck, but that's not their cost. They've got to put on insurance, workman's comp, unemployment, family leave on top of that. So when you want an employer to come in with a lot of employees, where the employee gets the 22, they're actually paying a lot more. That's got to be a high-tech company. It's got to be a company that makes money. I mean, a lot of money with a lot of employees. So are you saying that smaller companies that can't pay $22 an hour, startups and smaller ones that might need financial help to grow in the small, like in the new up, what do you call it? The next up, or that Chris and you were working on, where you take it to the next level. How many of those companies can, what do they pay? Do you have any clue of what?
I think what she was saying too is that if we set a higher wage, then we can have lower numbers of job threshold, right? I do believe that's what you were talking about.
Yes, I think if you have a higher wage, you may be able to just, we might be comfortable setting your minimum number of jobs at that wage at 1. If you have a lower wage, such as our current at 150% of the state, which is $17 an hour, that might then be where you'd say, well, we want a minimum of 5.
Okay, so you're looking at, if you look at a small business coming in, a startup, somebody that wants to do like rapid press but starting up on their own, you know, embroidery and whatever, and they can't afford to pay that yet, does that disqualify them from getting any help?
It could disqualify them on the basis of meeting a subsidy on the basis of wages and jobs, but it may not on the basis of diversifying our local economy or supporting, let me go back to our eligibility requirements really quick.
Because new business within a different line item.
Correct.
right, because we said right now they only need to meet one of those bullet
Yes.
points, right?
But now
And
you're
this is-
setting a wage, a minimum wage.
Only
But-
for the job bullet point, right?
Yeah. So again, going back to the eligibility requirements, we had the discussion of whether or not they'd need to meet 2 of these or 1 of these. You don't need to meet every bullet point listed here. You just have to meet 1. And if you're going to ask for a subsidy based on the last bullet point, that's the only thing we're talking about.
Okay.
You may have a business that is a new business in downtown or is stabilizing a business district or, you know, not currently located in the city, and you wouldn't need to meet these wage and job requirements at all.
Okay,
But yeah, I mean, I agree, if somebody's gonna come here and ask for a subsidy just based strictly on wage and job, I would wanna lean towards higher end wages, especially if we only require 1, because at the very least, you're gonna hire a manager to manage, you know, the other people, so, I just,
Technically, the owner could qualify as that one too.
Well,
right?
exactly.
Which would be, yeah.
yeah,
So
pretty
that-
easy.
Like, I can see why other places are like 5 even, because getting 5 to that number, if you have most businesses, you have, I mean, most businesses have 5 employees or more, so it's very rare they don't, so.
Yeah, at the 200% of the state, that's that $22 an hour. In looking at the county's median household, this was household income, I guess, for Washington County for 2014, that was $111,000. So if it was a single earner household, that's $53 an hour, I think is what I just figured out.
I don't think your math's right there, Abby, sorry. It's about half that. If it's,
Household.
so if the household income was 100 and,
Household income. Now, I'd have to go back and look. I mean, that could assume that that's a two-earner household.
Yeah.
If it was a single earner household, it's $53.57 an hour.
Again, that's Washington County, so you get some pretty big suburbs in Washington
yeah,
County.
I think they're pooling everything together. So it'll include some single-family households or one-earner
Yes.
households. It'll include the more
Yes.
common two, but it'll also include the two plus the working teenager.
Yes.
I feel like, I mean, I agree, Abby, in that, looking at the chart that you have pulled up right now, the 200% around, basically close to $23 an hour, that if that we're gonna have a baseline, that we should probably at least be at that, because showing I think it was like the next slide, where 0 children, so an adult, with no children can have a living wage of $23 an hour. And that data that I pulled up, and then you were saying 80%, that works out to be $23 an hour. So, I mean, it seemed like a good base in my mind.
For clarity, I would actually have it be at least median, is what I said. So,
Oh.
well, that says 80% of median.
Our older policy had
Yep.
said that 80% of
Yep.
median.
Oh,
So
that's
I'm-
what you're reading, the older, okay.
I'm suggesting it be at least the median,
Higher.
so that
Oh, okay.
somebody isn't
All right, so
bringing our
somewhere between
communities
23. I'm saying that at
median
least it
down.
should be 23 as like our bottom. But I know, I mean, that seems a lot, I mean, I don't own a business, I mean, Blake, Mayor Roberts, excuse me. I mean, having your employees at the store, that seems extravagant. I mean, having my child having worked at Walmart getting $21 an hour, I mean, that's a good wage, and you've got
They're not
your
talking about
business.
every employee, though. They're talking, like, a current policy is one. So in my restaurant, I have 6 people making over $23 an hour. So in my one restaurant. So it's not.
And what
uncommon.
level job is that? Is that,
Like my executive level and some of the, like, more experienced managers, so.
okay,
And Jenny brings up a good point, that's just a wage, but the cost to the business owner with all
Exactly.
the additional taxes and
benefits.
FICA and all the rest, that gets it up there pretty, so.
so what would you say is
Because I think, I would suspect that very few, if they're gonna go for this, is gonna only have to hit this mark.
yeah,
I'm fine with the higher, whatever highest, number we feel comfortable with, because I just don't think that for most businesses, so for example, if it's a TIF thing, and you've got a developer, putting Steve Stegner's building, just south of downtown, multiple tenant, Steve's got TIF out of that. That wasn't one of the things he's going for, because you have multiple tenants, so he wasn't triggering, the one thing he needed to do would be wages. I just don't think we're gonna,
right.
Yeah, usually that wage you find it with manufacturing positions,
That's
right?
what I was gonna ask about, like, if we were trying to attract manufacturing type businesses, where the average wage in those is not gonna be as high, and they might only have 1 or 2.
And some communities
Might
will,
deter some of them.
yeah, and some communities will have very specific wage. So again, remember, this is our base business subsidy program, right? So after this, next month, you'll see TIF and tax abatement policies come before you. We'll have this exact same conversation. But some communities will have a job creation wage benefit for every one position that you create at $23 an hour or $100, whatever that might be. We're going to give you $5,000, right? They sometimes will create that very specific program that goes along with that, or policy that goes along with it. Or let's just say in another TIP district where we were giving money for new capital investment for an industry that was coming to the community that was spurring economic development, and they hit wage goals, we might consider a better interest rate or more favorable terms to them based on that. It's just another type of thing that they'd be eligible for. But I do think that is, which would also be a reason why we could possibly say, okay, our base is gonna be single earner household, family of four, $42 an hour. You gotta meet one of those, right? But let's say they're gonna be a new manufacturing business that's gonna come to city, and we know that it's gonna spur other development, and they're gonna maybe have 5 positions, but they're gonna actually be at that $23 an hour. We can deviate from the one at 42 because they're showing they're still gonna provide 5 at 23. There's an economic benefit there because we can see that that's still a living wage for single earners, single people households. Does that make sense? So again, we're just kind of setting that floor, and we can deviate from it.
What doesn't make sense to me is if you've got the owner taking the one at that base, you know, to qualify, what you were talking about. And then he's gonna pay all the others a lot less. Of course, he's gonna take a lot more. That means that anybody coming in here and starting a business, the owner's gonna be the one qualifier. If you're gonna hire, you know, 3 more employees, the owner's gonna take that qualifying base pay minimum.
Yeah, so our eligibility says projects that result in higher wage and quality employment opportunities. I would say if that one higher wage is the owner, we might not be inclined to say you're gonna meet that criteria. We're gonna wanna see them create that new job.
Okay.
And we could probably be a little more specific in that eligibility requirement.
Do you feel like you've gotten enough from us, or do you want us to?
I wanna know, are we sitting at 23? Or do we wanna go higher of a 42?
So basically 200% or 400%, essentially, almost.
Essentially, yeah.
I mean, you wanna, I don't wanna pick a number and then have inflation kick in and be
So
like,
yes,
this
we
is-
have to do the percentage of, so.
So we don't do a percentage of the federal wage, or do we wanna do countywide? I think that was the kind of the 2 options on the table.
We will need to, by state law, we will need to do it a percentage of the state of Minnesota minimum wage.
Okay,
So we would have to convert the county's minimum wage to what the equivalent would be of the percentage for the state, and then calculate it based on that. I can figure all of that out if that's the way we wanna go.
do we wanna be higher than 200%?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We wanna
So-
be higher than 200%?
I would say so.
For
I
at
would
least
say
one?
twice that.
So you're looking more at that potentially providing for one working adult in a household with 2 kids?
So I'm looking at it like this is one of numerous paths to get a subsidy.
Yep.
And if you don't meet any of the other criteria and your only purpose to asking us for a subsidy is that you're gonna come in and create jobs, and if you're gonna create jobs that are paying 115%, what was that, less than $10 an hour? If you're gonna create jobs at less than $10 an hour, I'm sorry, but I don't want to subsidize you.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I hire hundreds of student employees a year, and we have student employees that start over $20 an hour. It's insane to me that we would subsidize at amounts even considerably less than that. To me, 400% is too low, to tell you the truth. Like, so I think we could do the state minimum piece, but you have to meet 2 pieces. So the state minimum percentage, maybe 400, but also it has to be above the median, and that keeps you ahead of inflation or adjustments in the marketplace. Does that make sense? Because I think you can still factor both in there and still meet the state requirement.
So you're saying $44 an hour?
If that's the only bullet point that you're gonna come to the city and say, I want a check from your taxpayers or a benefit from your taxpayers, yeah.
Yeah, but you're looking at that one applicant that is looking at that reason only for applying. What about
Yep.
all the other applicants?
The
Are
others,
they
this
not
does, the others, this doesn't matter.
The other
Well,
end of
you're
this, though,
setting it at 400%, then it applies to them too.
Again, it
Nope.
doesn't have, they don't have to do both. But what Eric is saying is if you got that long list of eligible, and if they don't
what
check
about going
any,
like 5 or 10 at the 200 or 300 to get more people at that livable wage than just one hire? Because right now we're at 1, right?
Correct.
I would rather see like a 5 or a 10 and a number at like 250, 300, somewhere in that range. 'Cause
And
then you're getting
I'm
more-
okay with having the number of employees be really low. That part doesn't bother me.
the fact that we can deviate from this at any time, and we've spent the most time talking about this one bullet item, so just,
I knew it'd be a large discussion topic.
That's why she made it her own slide.
Best
for
point of
it.
the night.
I still have a problem if you set it at 400% and you're not around, whoever administers this, how is they gonna know, okay, if we're gonna do it this way for this person, we're gonna do it this way, if this,
Each application will always be based on its own merits, and no application needs to meet the wage requirements.
okay.
but if they were coming and asking for a subsidy based strictly on wage,
Then we consider those, yep.
and we could choose to deviate from it if we wanted to.
And we could choose to deviate from it if we want, if we have good justification
Just
for
a
that.
little
So-
asterisk next to it.
I would, 400.
So I'm hearing a state minimum of 400 or 100% county median, whichever is greater? Is that what I heard?
I would prefer the median of Forest Lake, but
Oh, yes.
if we had to go with county, or if we have to go with zip code, I would try to say more local than the county here.
I
If you're
will-
having trouble finding where that data is.
No, I know how to
Okay.
find that data. I just, on the fly, in the moment, I'm
Right.
not, Yep, 100%, okay, so state minimum 400% or 100% Forest Lake /55025 median income, household income, whichever is greater. And then, how many? Minimum of one?
I would just keep it at 1.
Would you? Okay.
Yeah.
What minimum
One
of one
non-owner.
non-owner?
Yeah.
Or, yeah, I mean, I already made a note to adjust that so that we
The language.
had to create a new one, but. All right, well, hey, that wasn't so,
What else you got for us?
yeah, no, I mean,
I have
that
one
actually-
quick question. So the language that you're gonna do, are you gonna base it on the 2023 draft you have in here?
No, it's the new draft. So,
Right, but the one that was in the packet? So if you look on page, and I just wanted to make sure this didn't come in a final version later, page 36, D3 says attracts and retains an employer within the city, and D6 literally uses the exact same language.
no, I should have stamped all of those pages of the old policies. What is for your consideration is the policy that starts on page 9. I should have watermarked it,
Okay,
and runs to page 14.
got it. All right, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that didn't
And
come
when I
back.
bring this back, I'll bring it back with just that prettied up, none of the older policies, fix these things. Probably touch base with the council beforehand to make sure the council's on board. But then the hope would be at your next meeting, we have this draft policy for adoption, and then also have the same conversation about TIF and tax abatement, right? So even though we kind of set this floor, the idea is this is our umbrella for all of our policies. Now let's look, how do we want to tailor them specifically for TIF and tax abatement? Awesome,
All right. Good work.
thank you. Moving right along. This is easy, right?
Well, this is the one I had all the questions on.
Oh, great.
I just have a I have a question before getting into this. I don't know if that rainbow is AI, but is the flag? State
No.
flag, is that,
It was it's an old photo. It's an old photo.
Wow. Way to pick a scab, brother.
And as much as it looks like City Center, it's actually the little strip mall across the street, or across the parking lot from. I was like, oh, but that's not City Center. So, last year, the city produced its first community and economic development report, in 2025, or 2024. Included in your packet was an updated 2025 version. It included some information about overall the Community Development Department, and kind of, especially since this last year was a merger with the Building Inspections Division in 2025, and also the newly created Code Enforcement. So the idea of this was, here is a public education piece on what the Community Development Department is doing. Last year, when you reviewed a similar report, included in that packet, you had asked for additional information, some about the chamber. I will say, Nanette, I hadn't vetted it through you, but the very last page is the chamber highlights, which was taken from the report that the chamber provides for us each year. Has some nice photos in there. So, this is really helpful for us to understand where have we been this last year, where are we going, and it's really going to help us better understand over the years the metrics of how we're doing with our permitting, how we're doing with our valuations, and those sorts of things. So far, this has kind of been a little bit more of an internal document. It's for you, it's for me, it's for the council. We have put it on the city's website or investinforestlake.com. But I included some hyperlinks to other community reports, and you could take a look and see that some communities use their reports as a showcase, as a marketing piece. And so part of the conversation I wanted from the EDAs, take this, and that's why I also printed them all, because we, even though it's a 2025 report, some communities don't have this done till November, right? But the idea for us is, what do we like about this? What do we don't like about it? And how do we want to use it? And if there is an interest in us using it as a marketing piece, do you want me to, talk with marketing firms about making this a little more polished, and certainly including the current state flag on the front cover as opposed to the older state flag on the cover?
I would recommend avoiding having any.
It's not a great time to have the flag. I wasn't even
current
thinking.
or the better looking previous one.
I 100% agree, duly noted.
I love it, and we absolutely should showcase all of the great work to our own community that a lot of people don't know or realize what's been done. Not just from the EDA, but all the, the Parks Board, all the other, it's hard for people to keep up, or they don't get the paper anymore, or this or that, or they don't see everything on Facebook. I think there's always an opportunity to communicate and reach out. I'd love to, just for kicks for myself, like if you have this electronically.
It's in your packet.
Oh, this is in the packet? I'm sorry,
Yes,
my mother fell today.
There
I
is
didn't have time
there's
to
a
do this, so
yep,
I was
nope. A
running through.
PDF version is in your packet, but you have a hard
Okay.
copy. I know some people like to flip through things in the evening in paper. I know.
Yeah, it's great here. Okay, so, I think there's a lot of nuggets out of here, and also just in the work with the chamber, I don't know if all cities work, as closely.
Some do, some don't.
Exactly, so that's also a good news story, so that's a good thing.
Abby, in the packet, you referred or referenced the idea of maybe getting some outside help with producing this. Can you speak more to that?
Yeah, we produced this on a Word document. Had help from my staff. We don't have a communications team here, and so our ability, I would say, to make it jazzy.
Make it just,
I don't.
scramp it up. That's what I like to say.
I think this is the quality that we're going to get right now, and the question was whether or not we did want to engage with a marketing firm to see if they can make it a little bit more polished. The question really is, do we want to use this as a showcase for the community? And if this is out, you know, it's in its draft format right now, but this is our, you know, year-end or year report, are we happy with it in its current format? For year 2, I'm just tickled pink. But I also know that it could definitely have a lot more polish on it.
I guess, you know, the idea of spending some money to have an outside consultant help polish it up and jazz it up, how would you see it being used, like potential ROI? Like, or maybe even the chamber wants to weigh in, you know, would the chamber use it in communications with people that are reaching out to the chamber? Or Abby, do you know, from an economic development standpoint, like talk a little bit if you can about how we might use this beyond just having it pretty on the website.
Yep, well, first off, any development inquiry, this would be included probably. I'd probably actually, I mean, I haven't run it by administration HR. I probably really would change my email, what do you call it, signature block? You know, any developer that reaches out, this would be things, here's what we've been doing, you know, especially as it starts to show the last few years, I think it can really just start to highlight and emphasize what's going on in the community. Additionally, generally speaking, at least once a year, I do attend the MinCar Expo with Washington County. It definitely is an opportunity to distribute just within the development community. I can't say when you develop any marketing materials that you can calculate that ROI. I'm not in marketing. I know there are people in the room that could tell you if there's a way you can measure that. So that's at least how I would use it. I would defer to Nanette on how she thinks she might be able to.
Definitely. I think this information is amazing, and it's all about branding and marketing, and you have things to shout about. So I think we shout about it. Besides the fact that it all lives in one place, which is great, not only for us, right, internally, but externally. And I think for anybody that's looking at the area, they get a snapshot. I think, you know, just again, I haven't read every word in here, but looking it over, I'm like, okay, if I was looking to move to the community, this versus nothing, yes. And I know people also that have skills I mean, it could be polished up pretty easily, and I happen to employ one of them that's skilled and would love some work. So I think it's fantastic. I think in my opinion, it's a no-brainer.
Thoughts or questions from the commission?
I think you did. I think you did a fine job on it. I don't know that it's worth paying somebody to polish it up. You could probably pitch the thing into AI and say, polish this document up in such a fashion to appeal to, and then put your business owner demographics, landowner whatever it is that you're looking for, and it will clean it up for you amazingly well, and significantly faster than any marketing company.
I have other ideas, but I don't want to share them here. But I'd love to put together a proposal in all transparency, because I have a marketing agency and you and I've talked. But I don't know if that is in, you know, timeout.
Conflict.
Yeah, conflict, thank you. But it wouldn't be just this report necessarily. And yes, AI, and I do a lot of that. But you could do a multi-pronged approach in a lot of this information. And the other things that, like Jenny, when we talked about the communications, about the senior center, like so many things that we need to communicate out because we don't have anyone in that role. But it doesn't have to be a huge budget either. So I've just, you know, privately as an aside and not on the agenda, but I've thought about putting a proposal together, you know, just to run by you guys for, these are the things we could button it up to be very budget friendly, but just enhance some of the communications from any of the committees to say, and I know obviously the things that are posted already, a great job that I don't know if it's you or, who, everybody that's doing amongst their regular jobs. But just something I've thought about. So you guys can let me know at a different time if you want me to send that to you.
I mean, without spending a lot of time on getting, it wouldn't hurt to just get some pricing for some of this.
Yeah.
At a minimum. I tend to agree with you, Eric. I don't think we probably need to spend it. We could do something, but if it is gonna be a more larger, broader type of
Right,
thing.
things
then-
from this, like, this is a great report, but how could things springboard off of this into various channels to get us the attraction and the leverage to say, hey, Forest Lake is cool? Because, a lot of us have lived here our whole lives, but I can tell you from other people that I know that come to town here, and they're like, this is such a cool little town. Look at how cute this is. And I hear that all the time, and it's really nice for me to hear that because, how, just as you were saying earlier, people complain on the bulletin board, we have too many banks, we have too many dentists. You hear
yeah, I
the same
forgot
thing
banks.
sometimes, and it's just nice to have a fresh set of eyes sometimes to just say, this is really cute, or they can see the potential in a lot of things. And that's why we're here doing what we do, because we love it, and we're passionate about our little town.
And I am much, much more open to a more broad type of marketing contract or seeking that type of input from an outside agency versus a single document.
That would be more of a council decision, though, just around that broader communication that goes beyond purview of the economic development.
If it's heavily focused on bringing business into town and that side of it, I would have little objection to spending EDA funds with that.
Yeah, I know that marketing the city is a part, if you look at your EDA mission statement, the first one is marketing the city and its assets as a role of the EDA. We don't necessarily have it in our work plan right now to be developing any sort of campaign, but I think I'll kind of put that in a simmer pot. What I am hearing at least about this is, generally speaking, you like the information. It's not bad. I think it's, I think we did a fine job as well. I'm hearing that right now, if I found somebody that wanted to polish it up for cheap, great. Maybe we should try Copilot or one of those other types of programs out there first, see what we could do. Regardless, I can bring it back to you for kind of that formal sign-off before bringing it to the council next month.
Well, I think to add to that, maybe, knowing that there's probably some local resources, maybe just kind of get a quote to see what that might look like, get a
Sure.
price point. And
Yep.
if it's not,
Yeah, I think I will ask a few people at the very least,
And I would advocate for someone like Jill, to be quite honest with you, you have the biggest cheerleader right here, and you're gonna get your best bang for buck, because it's more about getting paid. It's about presenting Forest Lake to everyone, and that's what she's about. So, I know the conflict of interest gets a little,
Yeah, agreed.
weird there, but for a while, the city wouldn't buy anything from us. We were told by the previous administrator, you couldn't buy anything from our shop. But I'm telling you, I'm giving the city, because I care about the city, way more bang for its buck than anyone else would. So I don't have a problem with directing it that way, at least for one of the quotes.
Well, I think you did a great job.
Thank you.
It is great, it is a great report,
Well-
100%.
As it stands right now, until it gets settled on something else, any developer or anybody inquiring should get this. I think it's great. I think what she's talking about, the need for communication, that could include, people aren't going to be that enthused about economic development. It could be, more what's going on with the senior center and communicate what's happening in the community, but not such a business focus, more broad appeal.
It could be both, but also what you need, like you saying, you're going to MinCar, what are the hot points that you need? Or,
Right.
how can that be supported, as well as community, whatever. I'm not here to talk about that now, but both, basically, because I think we have opportunity as a community to communicate all these good nuggets out of this.
Yeah,
and for
there's a
things-
lot of information in here. There's also a lot of words, right? And that's, indicative of this, but I think it does, my biggest goal is to continue to come back to the EDA, the Planning Commission, the council, and say, look at the investment you are making in your community development department that we hadn't been investing for a long time. This is what's happening year after year after year. The work is showing. So I will thank you, Jenny, for the kudos. I do want to say kudos to my team. Don Boogie, our administrative assistant, was instrumental in helping put this together. So, you know, I couldn't do it without the people that are also helping us. So I'll bring something back. Yeah.
One more suggestion, whichever way it goes. I assume there will be a digital version of this at some point, and on page 55 it says community resources. You have hyperlinks within there to open to business and some other pages, but you could put on the page previous to it a hyperlink to the 2050 comprehensive plan, or at least that landing page.
Yep.
And then I noticed like the chamber's not linked in there either on that document.
Yeah.
Just adding a bunch more hyperlinks so it becomes a useful tool. I think it will be shared more broadly, whether it's done professionally by a marketing firm or internally.
That's great. Things,
Thanks.
you know, as you're working on it, you work on it a page at a time and kind of don't always think about those things. So thank you.
Yep.
All right, if, Abby, you got everything you need from us on that?
I need nothing else. No, I have enough direction to bring something back next month.
All right, then we'll move to updates. Anything in addition from the city tonight?
We did receive another new commercial improvement incentive program application. We do have funding. It's not ready to come back before you, but it is for some more downtown facade improvement stuff. So as soon as that's ready, I'll get it in front of you guys. Chris this evening was under the weather. He could not make it. He sends his regards. He didn't have any updates.
Thank you. Annette?
I do have some exciting news. First of all, I do want to tell you, I live near Belts Park, and that place is crazy all the time. All the time. Yesterday, there were 2 full, 5-on-5 basketball. I mean, it just makes my heart so happy because my whole neighborhood of kids is down there. I mean, there's cars all around the park. It is just hopping all the time. I know I texted Blake that. I walked my dog and I texted him. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so many. So I did want to say that because I am just, talk about kudos. You know what? That needs to be in, picture of that needs to be in the document because it's fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Okay, from the chamber standpoint, well, we had our expo, our Lakes Area Expo. We did our egg hunt, which was freezing cold, crazy, insane. But we did it, and everybody is so happy, and they smile, and it's wonderful, and we serve the families of Forest Lake area, and so that was great. I'm really encouraged because you said you did have a CIP application, because we have referred several to the city just recently. We as a chamber have just launched into some marketing services on a very general standpoint, no competition over there, just as a service to our members who are struggling with social media and some of those kinds of things. And then looking forward, coming up, if you're not aware of it, on Tuesday, May, I should know the date, is it the 18th, 19th? 19th, thank you, is the Forest Lake area local leaders. Oh my gosh. And that's where we have updates from our local mayors. Blake, you're the mayor of Forest Lake, just reminding you. Lisa Iverson says, sends her regards about that. And very excited because we will also be honoring the outgoing school, superintendent of schools and executive director from Lila, and then welcoming their replacements. And then the last piece is I'm going to do a little touch on business vulnerability, and then we'll have a panel around charitable giving. So that is a free event and sponsored by local businesses. And so register if you are interested. Any of you are welcome to attend. I've also been working in conjunction with the city, primarily Kyle Young, on the Memorial Day celebration for Memorial Day, and then also some things with Arts in the Park. Working also with Maranatha Church on National Day of Prayer, which actually is this Thursday, so we pray for you all and for our communities. Also, we are because it's Small Business Week, Samantha and I actually went out today. We visited we'd had 5 BRNE visits today. And so this week, not only myself and Sam will be out visiting, but we also have, well, we've chosen 50 businesses to go see. So I'm very excited about that. Just in the 5 conversations I had today, it was crazy, all the things that come up and all the good things as well. So, so those are in process. And then looking ahead, more from a community standpoint, of course, is our Lake Fest street dance, which is our community blowout, the summer, end of summer party, working on that and just really taking that up about 5 notches from what it's been. So, and the application, I didn't tell you, but the application is in for permitting. So yay, we crossed that off. And so we're not getting in trouble anymore on that. So aside from that, I think that's everything, not everything I'm doing, but things you might be interested in. So do you have any questions?
I noticed you didn't mention golf.
Well, the golf event, yes, the golf event, we would love for you to participate in the golf event as well. And if you're not already a chamber member, you just got to find somebody that is, because that's our other huge event. That's our biggest fundraiser of the year. So thank you for that, Leif.
Does that fall on the fourth, second or third or fourth? So we might want to talk about moving
Oh, yes, that,
meeting like we did last year.
yes,
Our-
it's
our
the
council.
4th Monday.
Monday.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, yes.
Uh,
Will do.
President Erickson, I do know that our consulting firm, Bolton and Mink, does always have a team present. There have been some members of staff that have been interested. So if the EDA did want to participate, just know you could have representation of city staff if that was something that the EDA was interested in.
Okay. Good to
We're
know.
not sold out yet, so.
I can put that on in June. You think it'd be too late at our next meeting if we took action on that?
I'd get moving, yeah. When is your next this meeting in June?
Mm-hmm.
It's the first
The
Monday
first
in June.
meeting in June, is that too late? When does it close?
When it sells out.
Okay.
I think you're okay.
Probably okay at that point.
Yeah, first meeting in June, I think it'll be
Nana,
okay.
can I ask you a question?
Yes.
With the memorial, I was actually just looking for information on that. I was looking at the Legion's website, that's why I thought might have it.
If you look on our website, under community events, it's there.
Okay.
And we just fixed the flyer. The flyer had a typo, and so there's the actual program in the morning from 9 to 10, and then there's a couple of hours from 10 to noon where the sculpture artist is going to be there.
Okay.
A little bit more, some entertainment, some food, things like that. So,
Okay.
but yeah, it's not, we have it on our website under the community section.
All right, thank you. Any updates from the commission? All right. Seeing none, I will entertain a motion for a closed session.
I will move to go into closed session pursuant to Minnesota Statute 13D.05, subdivision 3C3, to develop or consider offers or counter-offers for the purchase or sale of property identified as 29.032.21.32.0001, Washington County, Minnesota. At which point, when we end that, we will return into open session only to adjourn.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're in closed session.